I'm John Bashaw. I'm the president of the Northwest Cape Coral Neighborhood Association, and I'd like to take this opportunity to present another option for locating the rowing club and the kayak club in Cape Coral. Currently, the only option that's being considered is Tropicana Park. I'd like to present another location to you. This is a Parks and Recreation proposal for the city of Cape Coral, and it's submitted by the Northwest Cape Coral Neighborhood Association. The proposal is to place the Cape Coral Rowing Club and the Kayak Club on Crystal Lake Park, establish a Northwest water sports complex as an amenity of Crystal Lake Park, design the park to eventually become a world-class Olympic training facility under Cape Coral Parks and Recreation. Tropicana Park becomes the home of the local kayak and kayak fishing clubs. This is the current design of Crystal Lake Park. The proposal that I'm presenting today introduces using this horseshoe area as the location for the rowing club and the kayak club. Additionally, the proposal introduces another piece of property here that can also be used by the rowing club and by the kayak club. You'll notice that in this current concept design, I've introduced the idea of a Northwest water sports complex as an amenity of Crystal Lake Park. This is the current concept design for Festival Park. And Festival Park has an amenity which is Seahawk Air Park. In this diagram, the yellow highlighted airstrip and some of the property around it is Seahawk Air Park. On the key, the highlighted area is the amenity. It's balloon number 12, I believe, Seahawk Air Park. So the concept of designing Crystal Lake Park with an amenity of the Northwest Water Sports Complex is not something that's new. It's currently done at Festival Park with Seahawk Air Park. This is the current GeoView map of Crystal Lake and the immediate vicinity. And the area of land that I'm talking about is this narrow horseshoe. All of this would be made available to the rowing club and the kayak club in phase one. It's 140,000 square feet. In phase two, this additional piece of property would be added to the horseshoe. In phase two, there's 200,000 square feet, more or less, of property available to the clubs. And phase two includes one piece of property combined that is 120,000 square feet. This is where the water sports complex would be located. And now that's the future state. The current proposal to solve the problem of placement of the rowing club and the kayak club would only be this property. But this proposal looks forward enough that it considers this additional piece of property in the future, which would combine to 200,000 square feet for the Olympic training facility. What is Crystal Lake Park close to? Well, it's surrounded by single-family residential zone property. There are some conservation lands adjacent to it, to the north and to the west. And it's also very close to the city-owned Charlotte Harbor Beach. The city actually owns a triangular piece of property here. And it is a beach on Charlotte Harbor. It's a mucky beach, but it's still beach nonetheless. The unique thing about the Crystal Lake option is that it provides just a tremendous amount of scalability and upside potential in that these lands, these state lands, are actually designed or intended to be parks and recreation, combining them potentially with access somehow or another to the Charlotte Harbor Beach. Tremendous potential. We're now looking at the northwest spreader heading up to Crystal Lake Park. Notice how calm the water is, how wide it is. This is the safe harbor for the clubs. This is the horseshoe that I was talking about. This is the additional piece of property. This is Charlotte Harbor, and this is Crystal Lake. Again, the safe harbor. This is the horseshoe. and the additional piece of property. Where is it located? Crystal Lake Park is 5.1 miles or 11 minutes from Tropicana Park, so it's not that far away. This canoe is located on the map on Tropicana Park. This canoe is located at Crystal Lake Park to help you see the proximity of the two. Again, 11 minutes apart. Let's look at a best location comparison. These are all of the things that the clubs and residents said were important when considering a location for the rowing club. And these are the opinions of not only members of the NWNA, but residents all over the city. And every opinion matters. Now, there's been some nasty discussions on social media, and the NWNA doesn't condone any of that. The nastiness has been on both sides. What I tried to do here was to look past the way the message was delivered and to look at what is the message. So regarding calm water, that's something that was said was important. Both Tropicana Park and Crystal Lake Park have calm water. Scalability. Let's not make a decision in 2020 that we're going to regret in 2030. Crystal Lake Park is much more scalable for the reasons that I cited earlier. Lighting was said to be important. Both Tropicana Park and Crystal Lake Park afford plenty of options for lighting. Safety for kids. This is while kayaking and canoeing, and also a safe location to drop off kids. Crystal Lake Park is safer from a water standpoint, and as far as parents being reluctant to drop their kids off at a location at Crystal Lake versus Tropicana, that's really a wash. So the only thing that I'm discussing here is safety while in the water. Safe water. It's important that if there are youth programs for kayaking and rowing, that there's an opportunity for them to learn the sport safely. Certainly Crystal Lake provides a tremendous opportunity for youngsters to learn the sport in safe water. And once they've reached a certain level of skill, they can go into the spreader and kayak and row there. Public access, both parks are very accessible from by car or also by boat. So public access is not an issue. The financial aspect, I consider this to be a wash. And really, there isn't additional cost in developing one park over the other. But one thing I would like to talk about is that Crystal Lake Park, with all of its upside potential and scalability, really offers us some opportunity to generate some commercial revenue, tax revenue, in the city of Cape Coral. The example that I'll cite is Nathan Benderson Park in Sarasota. Sarasota Scene magazine cited that in 2019, Nathan Benderson Park delivered $35 million in revenue to Sarasota. Now, it's a long shot to think that we would ever generate $35 million in revenue, but there's no reason to think that with some creative planning and design, we couldn't get a slice of that. Regarding branding, the opportunity to brand Cape Coral as a world-class rowing and kayaking destination and to put us on the map in that aspect is much more prevalent at Crystal Lake Park because of the scalability opportunity than at Tropicana. Traffic, there's much less traffic up at Crystal Lake Park. Tropicana Park is sort of boxed in around Old Burnstow Road, and in the event that there was large groups of kayakers or rowers, potentially that's going to be a problem in both parking and also in traffic. Lodging, the only reason I gave Crystal Lake the advantage in lodging is that the proximity to Punta Gorda, plus also the proximity to Myriad RV Resort. I've had some discussions with the developer there, and there is an opportunity potentially to do some things with Myriad to help out with lodging. The last thing is fit in the neighborhood, and this is a really important one. I've discussed this with one of the developers that's on the 7 Islands shortlist, and Once that developer became aware that there was going to be, potentially a boathouse, kayak club and rowing club storing shells on the Tropicana Park property, that developer really wanted nothing to do with Seven Islands. So for that reason and some others, which I could get into, Crystal Lake Park is actually a better fit. In other words, the sport fits better in the Crystal Lake Park neighborhood than in Tropicana Park. So what did you just see? You saw a recommendation to place the Cape Coral Rowing Club and the Kayak Club on Crystal Lake Park. You saw a recommendation to establish the Northwest Water Sports Complex as a Crystal Lake Park amenity. And you saw a recommendation to design the park to eventually become a world-class Olympic training facility as a program in Cape Coral Parks and Recreation. What are the next steps? Well, let's look forward and think big, and let's not make a 2020 decision that we will regret in 2030. Let's make Crystal Lake and the Northwest Water Sports Complex a world-class destination long-term. This proposal offers a short-term solution and a long-term vision. Let's make the horseshoe on the land west of the lake available for the club's use and for them to design as they see fit using AECOM. Let's build Tropicana Park like the billboard, and let's include the splash pad. Let's design Tropicana Park so all the casual kayak clubs can call it their home base. This is what we could have. This is the Northwest Water Sports Complex on Crystal Lake, and it's also on the Northwest Spreader. It's a state-of-the-art boathouse, and it's a training facility for future Olympians. I appreciate your attention. Let's do the right thing. It's never too late to do the right thing.